Tubies. This is Psychic Bob. It is so wonderful to be back with all of you. Well, here we are. It's Monday, and that means Moon Day. I love Mondays because I always feel more psychic on Mondays. I don't know why. I guess it's that lunar energy. Anyways, how you like my big rock back here? Isn't that beautiful? This is a giant emerald Andara crystal. And for those of you who are new here and don't know what I'm talking about, see yesterday's video. I did a whole video yesterday. It's in the queue right before this video about this mystical crystal. This is a giant crystal that I own now. I don't know it's actually a real emerald, but I'm calling it an emerald. But it is an Andara crystal, which means it's from ancient Lemuria. It may have actually been a piece of an ancient Lemurian temple. Well, we'll have more about this crystal in the coming weeks, but just to get an intro, see yesterday's video. All right. Well, thank you to all of you who did come out to yesterday's video. I loved all your comments, your questions. We're going to talk more about crystals and Andara crystals later this week, so definitely keep it here. But today I promised you we would talk about aliens. And I brought you guys a kind of a fun little chart here. Look at this. Isn't this neat? I love these charts. This is an educational chart I bought at a teacher's store. I think it's perfect for our spirit channel here. This gives an outline of the planets of our solar system. So we start with Mercury, Venus. Here we are. This is Earth right here. Sorry for the glare on this. We've got Mars. We've got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And you know they left Pluto off this chart, but then Pluto got downgraded. But I don't care what anybody says. To me, Pluto's a planet. I want Pluto back in our chart. Anyways, I don't know who got that idea to downgrade a planet. But anyways, that aside, politics of planets aside, you know, this chart, I brought this because it's interesting just to see how all the planets align and what they are. But it brings me back to an earlier time in my life. When I was in high school, we had a planetarium built into our high school, and we would go there and study astrology. We had astrology classes, and I took a class there. And one day I'll never forget, the teacher was up front. He was showing the planets, and he said, just blatantly as can be, he goes, and of course, we know that Earth is the only planet in our solar system that sustains life. And somebody raised their question, said, there's no life on other planets? He said, oh, absolutely not. No, the rest of the planets are dead. Well, that got me curious. And, you know, being a little compulsive as I was in those days, I raised my hand. I said, well, sir, how can you say there's no life on other planets? We haven't been there yet. He said, oh, well, we've already, as scientists, evaluated the mass of the planets, their gravity, their atmosphere. We can, you know, it was in a time when they actually could do all that. And I said, well, what about Mercury? Why is there no life on Mercury? How can you say there's no life on Mercury? He said, well, the temperatures on Mercury are several thousands degrees. No life could sustain that heat, would just kill them. And I thought, I'm not sure I'm ready to accept that. So I then, of course, being a little compulsive, had to jump in and I said, but is it possible, sir, that there could be life that actually thrives in like 10,000 degree temperatures? Could there be a life form that actually requires the heat that exists on Mercury for survival? Well, yeah, I tell you, the look that I got was like, oh, how dare you question the truth of science? And you see, this is what drives me crazy. You know, a lot of people say, well, we're in an educated age. Be open, you know, to science. And I've always said there does not have to be a war between religion and science. I believe in science. I also believe in spirituality. And the difference is, you know, that each side views itself many times as having the truth. And I accept spirituality, I accept science. But what I don't accept is when each side becomes so orthodox in their position that they shut out the other. This is where the conflict comes. And so I say, I'll agree with the scientists of their evaluations of the planets and their atmospheres. I can believe and accept that. I think they know enough to speak on that. But I also think we have to leave open room for the concepts that there may be life forms that accept environmental factors that, in fact, required in some cases that are different than Earth. And that what we deem as unable to sustain life may simply not be true. Case in point is that through the years, particularly since the 1950s, many people have claimed to have encounters with beings from other worlds. Now, what's very interesting is the early days of ufology showed a lot of interactions between Earth and beings from outer worlds. George Adamski documents a lot of this in his book, Inside Their Spaceships. And we've talked about this book before here. But in this book, he has actual encounters with people from Mars, Venus, and Saturn. Now, what's really interesting to me as somebody who studies this is today when we hear about aliens, we keep hearing stories about gray aliens with big eyes. And they always say that they come from like a far star system, from Zeta Reticuli or, far across the galaxy. And this leads a lot of people to say, well, see, that proves that there's no life, in our solar system. But I tell you, I beg to differ, because if you study the works of Adamski and people of that time period, there are very many encounters that have been documented, and most of them come from our solar system. Now, the reason why I speculate that you don't actually hear about this much is because they really are so normal. Every encounter with the aliens from Mars and from Venus and Saturn, I tell you, you would think it's just your next door neighbor. And that's because really all of the planets in our solar system have life, but the life is humanoid. The thing is that you see the grays are getting a lot of attention now because one, they've been more active on the earth. And two, they're so extreme looking and different, it's got everybody's mind going. But a lot of people are forgetting that there are many people that are still having encounters with beings from these worlds. Now, since the advent of the nuclear age upon the earth, many of the aliens have withdrawn their kind of support for the earth. They've been very disturbed by our tendency towards extremes of war and destruction, environmental destruction. And so some of them have chosen to kind of step back because their messages, their extension of friendship and goodwill really was not met by many citizens on the earth. It's believed that the Martians and Venusians did try to have a meeting with the United States government to discuss nuclear arms reduction. But you have to remember it's during the time of the Cold War, after World War II. So the idea of letting down weapons or stepping down weapons was just not acceptable. And as a result, the relations between the United States and these other inhabitants of these other planets really were kind of put into a stall. And so today you don't hear a lot about the Venusians and the Martians, but they are real. They do live on their planets. In fact, nowadays with the Martian exploration, there have been coming back a lot of interesting photos that really do suggest that there is life on Mars. In fact, I'll put up a picture up here. This is a picture of a woman that was spotted on Mars recently. So as you can see, looks pretty human to me. Anyways, I have another video on Mars in the queue. If you look back, you'll find my Martian video where I go into a lot more detail on that specific planet. But today, I just want to come here and introduce to you the concept, and I want you to explore this, that there are lives, there is life on each of the worlds. And you see the big gray aliens with the big eyes, those don't exist in our solar system. But people that look just like us exist. In fact, even on Earth today, and George Adamski documents this in his book, that the aliens, many of the Martians and the Venusians, are actually on the Earth working and living amongst us. People do not know their origins, but they look so much like us, they blend in. Thus, they are able to kind of keep sense of what's going on Earth, to kind of feel the pulse of the people. And I think this is very important, because it is my belief that when we do have the eventual full disclosure, which I have predicted and say will come in the next 2 years, the first beings I believe that will reveal themselves are going to be the humanoid aliens, such as the Martians and the Venusians, the Palladians. Now, see, I believe that our cosmos, or our planetary system, I shouldn't say the whole cosmos, but our Earth and many of the planets in our solar system were seeded with life from the Pleiadians. And as many of you know from my Pleiadians videos, they also are humans. The human race as it exists on Earth today is the descendant. The race is the descendant of the Pleiadians, who are literally humans from the Pleiades star system. But the Pleiadians also seeded life on these other worlds. So truth really is that we are all really brothers and sisters, literally. We're connected to the Martians. The Martians are not, as I said, green people. They're people exactly like us. The difference is that the timelines of evolution have allowed these civilizations to evolve at a more rapid rate. And the other planets were fortunate in that they learned a long time ago to set aside war, set aside hostility. Because many of these planets were seeded with life long before Earth, many of the people in them were around during the time of the Galactic Wars. It's believed that several million years ago, there was literally a cosmic battle, literally like Star Wars, and that's not a joke. You can research this. But out of that time of experience, there were destruction of planets, there was destruction of many life forms. The people who survived the Galactic Wars said peace must be a priority. And as they, the civilizations that existed on these planets, again, remember there are several million years ahead of Earth technology, already had spaceships, already had weapons, and came to really know the true power of destruction, of nuclear weapons and lasers and all of this. The Earth right now is at a place where we're just adventing into that level of technology. And so, because we have a lot of younger souls who don't remember the Galactic Wars, they're not listening or learning. And so this is why the Earth is a point of concern for many in the cosmos, and why we are getting visitations from other worlds. If we destroy the Earth, now look at how close the planets are. This may not be literally to scale, but it's not far from it, I'll tell you that. Look how close we are. We could offset the life on all the worlds around us. If Earth explodes, it would implode to Mars, which could throw it off kilter, destroy it, knock it into the asteroid belt. Then all of that could be drawn into Jupiter. You can see how we'd have a great cosmic cataclysm. So the aliens are here to help us. And I want you to research George Adamski particularly. I think his books are very valuable in documenting the mentality and the cultures of the Martians and the Venusians, who are very closely aligned with Earth. Anyway, so if anybody ever tells you, oh, there's no life out there, it's just simply not possible, I want you to challenge them. And I want you to say, well, why could there not be life that actually lives on Mercury and needs that temperature? You see? I think it's a valid question, a valid point. Anyways, guys, listen, tell me in the box below. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had an encounter with an alien from our solar system? Maybe some of you have. I've met people over my many years of doing private readings that have been abducted and had experiences and had encounters. There are many reports of people literally just walking in fields and a spaceship lands and they say, "Hi, I'm from Venus." George Adamski was probably the first to really record it and publicly release it. But many people have had this. And so I'm curious, have you ever had an encounter with an alien? A lot of these beings are also telepathic and they channel through people. So maybe you've received a telepathic message. I'd love to hear that as well. Anyway, so X time a scientist tells you there's no life on Mercury, there's no life on Mars. Challenge them. Well, guys, listen, thanks for being here. I am so glad you're here. Anyways, sending you blessings and love on this Memorial Day. Let's all remember today to say prayers and send thanks to those who have sacrificed their lives so that we would have a country where we can have these exchanges of ideas and say no to anybody who will want to stifle your expression and want to stifle your freedom of speech. Say no. Say people died so that we could speak our truth. And you stand proud for those who've given so much. It's the least we can do to honor them is to speak our truth, to engage in democracy, and to practice freedom. Anyways, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being here, Spirit Channel. And by the way, also go get your horoscopes for today. Go to my website, www.robert-hickman.com, and get your horoscopes. They're free horoscopes. If you go to the website, up at the top, there's a tab on the right. It says horoscopes. You click on that, you'll be in. You'll get your free daily horoscopes. I do those every day, 7 days a week, so make sure to get it. Anyways, also, if you haven't, check out my video from yesterday about my giant Andara crystal. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you back here tomorrow, Tuesday. We're going to have messages from the spirit world, so make sure to be here. Blessings to all of you.